US President Donald Trump is taking the lead in establishing peace in Gaza. But what is he proposing and what will peace look like? At the UNGA, Trump held a meeting with Arab and Muslim leaders, including Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, to rally support for his plan and push for its implementation. All of this unfolds amidst an ongoing genocide in Gaza, shifting global politics, and a surprising wave of Western countries suddenly recognizing the Palestinian state. So, what can we expect next? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about what is Trump proposing. Recent reports outline Trump's current plan as follows: a framework for Israel to withdraw or at least reduce its military presence in Gaza, deployment of Arab and Muslim peacekeepers or a stabilization force to maintain order during this transition, and a governance model that excludes Hamas but includes the Palestinian Authority. It also focuses on reconstruction and rebuilding of Gaza's infrastructure, funded by regional powers and external donors. Experts say this is probably Trump's most ambitious post-war framework so far. It tries to bring in Arab and Muslim countries to play a bigger role and keeps the Palestinian Authority involved despite Israel's traditional rejection of the authority's rule in Gaza. But what about Trump's earlier proposals? Let's rewind to February 2025 when Trump floated a controversial Gaza vision. At the time, he suggested the US take control of Gaza temporarily and rebuild it, with some talking about turning it into a Riviera and relocate many or even all Gaza residents to neighboring countries like Egypt or Jordan. This was widely condemned as forced displacement or even ethnic cleansing. It was denounced by the Palestinian Authority as a violation of Palestinian rights and sovereignty. So how are Israel, Hamas, and the Palestinian Authority responding this time around? First, let's talk about Israel. It hasn't formally signed off on Trump's new plan, but is reportedly briefed on its contents. But there's a bigger issue. While talks focus on Gaza, Israel is simultaneously pushing into the West Bank and continues to take innocent lives. Just recently, Israel's far-right national security minister called for immediate countermeasures against international recognition of Palestine. He also plans to propose extending Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank, an idea that has broad support in the Israeli cabinet. He even threatened the complete crushing of Palestinian Authority, which governs parts of the West Bank and is viewed by many as the foundation for a future Palestinian state. Prime Minister Netanyahu put it bluntly: a Palestinian state will not be established west of the Jordan River. He says he has long resisted pressure to allow such a state. This stance deepens suspicion among Palestinians and Arab countries, because how can Israel be serious about peace in Gaza while intensifying control over the West Bank and also undermining the Palestinian Authority? As far as Hamas is concerned, it remains excluded from any governance plans. Both the US and Israel see Hamas as a terrorist group and unfit to govern. On the other hand, Mahmoud Abbas addressed the UNGA summit via video link since the US denied him a visa. He reiterated the Palestinian Authority's goal to govern both the West Bank and Gaza, excluding Hamas, and affirmed their push for a full Palestinian state. Still, many Palestinians see these declarations as largely symbolic. The reality is that Israel continues to control much of the West Bank and Gaza militarily, which makes a unilateral Palestinian state difficult, if not impossible, under current conditions. Now let's talk about the UN statehood push and reactions. Just before Trump's presentation, dozens of world leaders at the UN formally endorsed Palestinian statehood and recommitted to a two-state solution. But Israel condemned the move as a reward to extremism, and the US also opposed unilateral recognition. Qatar's Emir, speaking at the UNGA, emphasized the urgent humanitarian needs, calling for lifting the Gaza blockade, and stressed respect for Palestinian rights and sovereignty, which is pushback against framing Gaza only as a security problem. Turkish President Erdogan called Trump's meeting with Arab and Muslim leaders fruitful, and Trump himself called it a success, noting that it included all of the big players except Israel. Days ago, France and Saudi Arabia also launched a joint initiative to convene an international conference aimed at advancing a two-state solution. And then French President Emmanuel Macron added a provocative challenge that Trump should only win the Nobel Peace Prize if he actually ends the war in Gaza. The logic being that the US has significant leverage over Israel through military support. So we have Trump back in the spotlight with an ambitious Gaza peace plan, mixed reactions from Israel, Hamas, and the Palestinians, new international support for Palestinian statehood, and fresh diplomatic moves from France and Saudi Arabia. Now the big question is that will this unprecedented diplomatic push translate into real progress, or will it become just another chapter in the long and complicated Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Only time will tell.